And welcome into this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and the Locked On San Jose Sharks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Thank you for making the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast and Locked On Sharks podcast your first listens of the day. For the people on the San Jose Sharks feed, let me introduce myself. My name is Armando Velez. You can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account on Twitter at LO_FLA Panthers. And very thankful to bring in the host, one half of the host of the Locked On Sharks podcast, nicknamed the Content Boys, and for the Panthers feed, fellow Dolphins fan as well, JD Young. JD, how are you?
I'm doing well, buddy. This has been a long time coming.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. This is something that we've kind of talked about behind the scenes ever since I joined the network, and we both found out that you have you like another team that is colored in teal. So great to be doing this, man.
Yeah, it's actually the Dolphins were my first love. I've been a Dolphins fan since I was like 4 or 5, and my dad forced it upon me, and I blame him every day.
Mhm. So JD knows all about what public subs are out there in the West Coast. So he knows all about that. We've spoken a little bit
Yes.
about that as well. So y- I wish that they had Publix out there, man, so that you could get a chicken tender sub.
Yeah, when my wife and I, every time we back east to visit my family, that's one definitely on the to-do list is to go to Publix and get a sub. So yes.
That's awesome, man. And hey, and you're welcome back here anytime, man. But let's talk about this game. The Florida Panthers come out with a 5-4 victory over San Jose on Saturday night, a 6 p.m. puck drop for this one Eastern time. And the San Jose Sharks and the Florida Panthers, they are teams going in different directions. They have different end goals as of right now.
Mhm.
But let's talk about our biggest takeaways of this game. For the San Jose side, what are your biggest takeaways for coming out of this one?
James Reimer's back, baby. Reimer, who started the season on fire and then kind of dealt with some injuries around the Christmas break and was really rough stretch coming out of the Christmas break. I think he got pulled 3 times, but the past 2 games has been on fire. You know, against the Caps, I think he stopped like 41 of 42 shots, and then an onslaught from the Panthers last night, and he gave up 5 goals, but I mean, he was that could have been like 8 or 9 goals the way the Panthers were playing. So, and it's great to see him kind of bounce back to form, especially if the Sharks do have any intentions of trying to make the playoffs. He's going to have to be playing like this on a night in, night out basis, just because the Sharks' offense just isn't where it needs to be a playoff caliber team.
Yeah, and James Reimer, former Florida Panthers goalie, he was traded the day before Sergei Bobrovsky signed his 7-year, $70 million contract, traded over to Carolina on June 30th of 2019 to make space on the roster for Sergei Bobrovsky. And always cheer. I always cheer on former Panthers players, especially goalies. Sam Montembeault is one of them. James Reimer, the other, and Jacob Markstrom specifically are three of them that are in different situations now, but definitely cheering them on. And my biggest takeaway for this one was the amount of block shots, the discrepancy in block shots between the San Jose Sharks and the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers only had 4 blocks this whole game, and they were kind of not helping Sergei Bobrovsky in this one, and that's what really led to the 3-1 deficit for the Panthers at the time, and just not being. There was a time at the end of the first period, the Sharks had 15 shots on goal, but the attempted shots for San Jose was 17. So that's very telling on how many open shooting lanes that the San Jose Sharks really had early on Sergei Bobrovsky. But the attempted shots for Florida, my goodness, and you said it best on the Locked On Sharks feed that if the Sharks were gonna be in a track meet with the Florida Panthers, it wasn't going to end pretty for them. And the Florida Panthers in this one ended up with 90 attempted shots, 50 of them on goal.
Yeah, and that's been kind of the Sharks' MO is they're going to try to block as many shots as they can. Mario Ferraro, who left the game early, I think he left the game after the first like 5 minutes after taking a puck to the face, and he's doubtful for the rest of the road trip. But he's the NHL leader in block shots. Nick Bonino is the NHL leader in block shots for forwards. Like that's been kind of their thing is they're going to try to make you work for quality shots, and they're going to block as many as they can to try to make their lives easier on the goaltenders, and especially after the way that the defense has been so porous the past couple of years. Like they're trying to like kind of slow down and slug up, make these games really muddy and make it difficult for the opposing offenses to get quality shots. And it's worked at times. And I mean, the game plan was there last night, and they did a great job of taking advantage of the opportunities that they had whenever they got the counterattacks. But again, when you face these cup caliber teams like the Panthers and the Lightning, and they play the Canes later today, like you can only hold the dam so long until it finally breaks, and that's what happened. And you saw the Shark by the end of the third period, and by overtime, the Sharks were just out of gas.
Mm-hmm. And you said it best when running out of gas, and when you're playing 5 defensemen, when Mario Ferraro took the puck to the face,
Yeah.
that's gonna put more pressure on different types of players. When the Florida Panthers had a lot of players on the COVID list, Mackenzie Weegar was that guy logging a lot of minutes in their game against the Los Angeles Kings. Brett Burns in this one. Let's talk about the amount of
Casual
minutes.
34 minutes.
34 minutes.
34 minutes, which the dude, like, he's literally 1 month older than me. He's going to be turning 37 here next month. Like, I can't do anything straight for 34 minutes. I don't know how he does this, but like he's, I get, especially with Ferraro getting out, he's having to play. But if only they had like a first round, like a 2018 first round draft pick that's like a puck moving defenseman that's just sitting in their bag in the press box that they could have played. Yeah, so that was my big thing with like Ryan Merkley, who got benched after the Lightning game, a game where everybody played poorly. They lost, like 7-1 or 7-3. I forget what it was, but it was bad, right? But he was, of course, the scapegoat for that game. And then, especially with Erik Karlsson being out, Burns is really the only puck moving defenseman that they have right now. So it seems weird to me that you're Ryan Merkley, who's a first round draft pick, and I know he's only got less than 20 games under his belt, but it's like, you need him to get the puck out of the zone and to take some pressure off Brent Burns so he doesn't have to play 34 minutes a night, and especially the first game of a back-to-back.
Yeah, I can only imagine it being frustrated for the former Norris Trophy winner, and it's just a lot of you're taxing a guy at that point. But hey, this is an opportunity for him to play as well, since you said that Ferraro is doubtful for the trip. Erik Karlsson's out until March, so the Florida Panthers could see him the next time they face. But let's go to a break, and we'll break down more of this game. But first, we're going to tell you all about Built Bar. It's the new year, so that means New Year's resolution. If yours is about getting fit or eating healthy, make sure you include Built Bar in your plan. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar, maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bar makes it easier to stick to your resolution because it tastes so good you'll want to eat it, unlike other protein bars, which can be chalky, waxy, or taste like a chemical spill. You want to eat healthy, but it just gets so boring. By like week 3, you might be thinking, this is just not worth it. Where's the chocolate? Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate. Most Built Bars contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 grams of net carbs, and 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Here's an idea for the new year. Go order your secret treat stashes at home, in the pantry, in the office, in the car, wherever. Throw out all the sugary, calorie-filled treats and replace them with Built Bar. So when you're craving a snack or a treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. Even if you're not a huge fan of working out, you can at least eat something that tastes good and is good for you. That way, when you enjoy a delicious Built Bar, you can almost count it as a workout. And there's so many flavors to choose from: coconut almond, peanut butter brownie, raspberry, cookies and cream, salted caramel, mint brownie, and many more. In fact, Built is always coming out with a new limited time flavor. So check out built.com often to see what's new. Go to builtbar.com and use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your next order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 50% off at built.com. And welcome back to this crossover edition of the Locked On Florida Panthers and the Locked On San Jose Sharks podcast. So, JD, one thing that really helped with the San Jose Sharks really breaking out to their 3-1 lead was their power play.
Mhm.
Their power play, which coming into this game was ranked 23rd in the NHL, and they went perfect in this one, 2 for 2. Dahlin getting both of them. How encouraging is it for the San Jose side that they got 2 for 2, and how much of this can be a momentum swing going forward?
Yeah, you hope so, especially because they went through a brutal stretch. I think from it was like December 11th through the January, like whenever before the Timo Meyer 5-goal game. So I think so January 15th or whatever, they had and during that time they'd given up 3 shorthanded goals on the power play and scored 2 power play goals. So yeah, so this is something where, especially right now with the power play being kind of so lopsided, with the power play one being with Burns and Couture and, kind of all of the big names. And then, like last night, Mario Ferraro was supposed to run power play too. Mario Ferraro, he's a pretty good defenseman, but running the power play probably isn't what in his best skill set. So, but it was nice to see Dahlin get going. He came out of the gate on fire, and he definitely had some struggles between a shoulder injury and then getting COVID, and he's been kind of rounding back into form. So it's nice for him to kind of get rewarded for his efforts with the two goals last night, both being on the power play. But I'm still a little hesitant because his power play is just, sometimes it'll look really crisp, and then sometimes it's just looks like they have, like, guys are just standing around static, and they're just passing the puck waiting for something to happen. So I'm still a little hesitant on the power play being kind of back, but it's at least encouraging to see Dahlin get going.
Mm-hmm. There's a time for the Florida Panthers where their power play before the COVID break was at a 16%, but theirs is around the mid 20s right now. They haven't had a power play goal in the last 3 games, but it's still better than where it was before. But one really encouraging thing for the Florida Panthers, especially Sergei Bobrovsky, in this one, where he had the Florida Panthers broadcast. Randy Moeller, the color analyst, he said on the save on Balsers in the middle of the second period on a breakaway, he was all alone on Bobrovsky. He makes a pad right pad save, and Randy Moeller said, "Remember that save," and that was when it was 3-1 at the time.
Yep, that could have
And
been the backbreaker right there if Balsers had gotten that. And we've seen Balsers make he's scored on that, I think, against like Calgary and stuff like that. Like, he's scored goals like that, but it's that you're at the time you're like, oh wow, that would have been 4-1, that would have been great. But man, in a game that you lose 5-4 in overtime, that could have been the game winner right there. So yeah, that was a great save by Bobrovsky, especially since he kind of struggled a little bit earlier too, for him to kind of work back into the game and make that huge save right there.
absolutely, and there's also another one where Carter Hagee gets a goal right in front of the net. Multiple chances. Uyghur, Barkov attacked, and then Verhaeghe gets a loose puck, a scrambling puck right in front of James Reimer, and that was when it was 4-2 after the second Dahlin power play goal shortly after. And when it was 4-2, I was like, oh no, it's this is gonna the Florida Panthers cut it to 1 and then give the lead back again, and then the Florida Panthers make it 4-3, and then the offside call, which was the easiest call the referees could ever make for an offside. And great challenge by Bob Bugner, former Florida Panthers coach. And at that point, JD, when the goal was reversed, I had a little bit of doubts that this comeback could happen. But at the same time, something in the back of my head always said that this team has done it before. We've seen it do it against Washington and Buffalo just in the same week, just a few weeks ago. And I think this is now Florida's 13th or 14th comeback win of the season, top 2 or 3 in the NHL. And playing in Sunrise is just a different story for this Florida Panthers team than the rest of than when they go to like different NHL arenas now. 23-3-0 at their home arena. They had just had their biggest capacity crowd since the 2019 season at 18,152 people. So, and that was on the same night of a Miami Heat home game too. So the crowd was really into it. It was an opportunity for Joe Thornton to face off against his former team, which was a beautiful thing to see him not only play but in the starting lineup as well. And it was just such a great atmosphere seeing it from the television side of things for the Florida Panthers perspective. And of course, a comeback definitely helps. But for you, how weird is it seeing Joe Thornton in a different uniform?
It's still weird. I mean, we had him playing with the Leafs, but like since the Sharks didn't play the Leafs last year, like they didn't get that moment. So it's still weird, especially just seeing him there and how long and how important he's been to the San Jose Sharks. Last time he played against the Sharks was 2003. I mean, I was a senior in high school at the time. Yeah, like it's been that long, and like he's arguably the most important person in the Sharks franchise. Owen Nolan like legitimized the Sharks when he came, but Joe Thornton transformed it into a perennial cup contender. And we all know that they never got it done, but I mean, being in the playoffs for I think 14 out of 15 years, and just constantly being a team that to reckon with in the playoffs, and and like him and Patrick Marleau, and then you had Couture and Pavelski and all these guys, and that it all started with Joe Thornton. He was the first one, and he's the one who kind of legitimized. And it's weird in that picture of him and Burns before the game, where they're just that cheesy smile Burns has and stuff. And yeah, when the Panthers show up in March, I think it's March 15th, like that place is going to be just decked out in Thornton jerseys and stuff. So yeah, it's still really weird.
That even though I'm a Panthers fan, that picture of Joe Thornton and Brett Burns brought a smile to my face. Just two good friends, two longtime teammates with one another, making a cup run in 2016, and just that's just a great moment for both of them, and of course you don't want Andrew Burnett to pull a Rick Bonus when he
Yeah.
goes back to San Jose. So the fact that he didn't scratch him last night, I don't think he's going to scratch him when they do play, assuming that Joe Thornton is healthy enough to play.
Yeah.
And Joe Thornton played the wing, which he hasn't done this season. So, and the center depth for the Florida Panthers has just been a lot better this season, and this is without Noel Chari even playing at all this season. He's skating, but he's been on LTIR pretty much this whole season. So the center depth for the Florida Panthers is there, but they might need a little Joe Thornton when it comes to the playoffs. So not playing him every single night,
Yep.
I think it's going to really help them keep him fresh when the playoffs do come around.
Yeah, and I think for the Panthers, I mean, at this point, the cup is the goal, right? So these kind of day-to-day matchups, it's nice, and especially with how competitive the top of the Eastern Conference is. But the main thing is getting everyone ready and healthy for the playoffs, and like you said, if Thornton's playing every once in a while and you kind of keep him fresh and stuff like that, and then when you get to the gruel and the grind of the playoffs, where Thornton's been there and he's done it, he's done basically everything except for lift that cup. Having that guy there who can, some of the younger guys can go talk to, and just kind of see him what he goes through, it's going to be huge for the Panthers as they make their cup run this year.
Absolutely, and I'm really excited for Joe Thornton for an opportunity. And I'm sure San Jose fans, I can't even
Oh,
imagine how
we've
much they're cheering for
100%
him.
we are behind the Joe Thornton and Joe Pavelski. Those, yeah. If we can't win, one of those guys needs to win it. So
Well, the playoffs looks like a sure thing for the Florida Panthers. Hopefully, it's the same thing for the Dallas Stars or wherever Joe Pavelski gets traded
ends
to,
up,
if he
yes.
does, because he's on an expiring contract for the Dallas Stars. So who knows where Pavelski will end up? But
Bring up at Florida. Yeah. Pavelski on the top. Yeah. Just add Pavelski. That'll be fine. Yeah.
I don't know what his cap hit is, but I know
7
he.
million. He's a 7 million. I know he signed a 3x7, whatever. So, but yeah, He's still playing at like a first line. It's insane how he's still playing this well. How old he is right now.
That's gonna be a little hard to fit in the cap for sure. For the Panthers, so they're gonna have to do what Tampa Bay did with David Savard, get a team to take 25% of the cap hit and exchange it for a draft pick, something like that. But I think it's doubtful. But definitely, I wouldn't mind Pavelski on the Panthers, but I just don't think it's possible with the money for the Panthers.
So
But
what is the going into the playoffs? What do you think is the Panthers' big need to kind of put them over the edge for that cup run? Or do you think they're pretty much set as is?
I think they need a middle pairing defenseman.
Mhm.
And one name that's been two names that have been out there for the Panthers have been Ben Sherratt of the Montreal Canadiens, and the other one is Jacob Chikrin. The difference is that Ben Sherratt is an expiring contract going into this offseason.
Yeah.
Chikrin has term, but his cap hit is very low. That's the benefit of it. But with the flat cap, if you bring Chikrin in, you still have to extend Jonathan Huberdeau. Mackenzie Weegar is up for a contract in a few years as well, so they're going to have to continue wheeling and dealing to fit everyone under.
Yep.
So is Bill Zito going to go with the approach of bringing Sherratt in and being able to reset into next offseason, regardless of result of cup or not? Or
Mhm.
is he going to have to bring in a guy with term who's one who, if you put Jacob Chikrin on this team, you're going to really see him shine way more than, of course, in Arizona. I mean, that's going without saying,
Yep.
but but it's just the term of how to fit him in. And the Florida Panthers still have a situation where they're dealing with the majority of Keith Yandel's buyout next year, and then the majority of that will be gone. I think the recapture penalty of Roberto Luongo ends this year or next. I'd have to check Cap Friendly again for that. But
This year, I'm pulling up Cap Friendly right now. So yeah. This year's oh my god, the Keith Yandel one next year is brutal.
yeah, it's brutal. It's like 6 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, along with Scott Darling as well. So there's a they're going to be a little cap strap next year. But the way Bill Zito structures his contracts, there's no long term commitments outside of the core three for the Florida Panthers and Sergei Bobrovsky.
Mhm.
So they'll always have a little bit of cap space every single year when it comes to free agency. And of course, next offseason they could try to trade for a Patrick Hornquist to clear some. They did it with Anton Stroman the previous offseason, and maybe trade a Brandon Montour to clear like both of them to like 10 million, something like that as well. It can work. It can work with Jacob Chikrin, but it's just how many times will you have to wheel and deal to fit everyone in? I mean, Vegas is going to have to do it with Jack Eichel, and if they can do it, I think the Florida Panthers can. But it's just how is Bill Zito going to pull that off if
Yep.
they get Jacob Chikrin?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be interesting. I think Kyle and I both picked the Panthers Avs as our cup finalists. So I think that when you have an opportunity like this, you got to try to strike, and because you never know when like we've seen with team like look at the Canadians last year. Oh yeah, they'll be back, and then they're literally the worst team in the NHL right now. So I don't think the Panthers are going to fall off like that. But you never know. A guy gets hurt, something. Just some guys. This is their best season ever, and that maybe they're just not quite the same after this. Or Bobrovsky, maybe he turns back into a pumpkin like we've seen him do before. You got to strike when the iron's hot with this, and if you win a cup, you don't care about the cap. That's
Yeah.
who cares? You won a cup. Nobody cares about the cap after that. So
If you win a cup, everyone, that whole talk of Bobrovsky's contract
doesn't
of a
matter.
10 million cap hit is all over. That won't be
Yep.
a conversation because that's the purpose of bringing him in. So
Yep.
it's some people still complain about it now. I've leveled down based on his current play, but it doesn't change the fact that it's not the best cap hit for the Florida Panthers at this point.
Oh, if you
It
want to talk
doesn't.
about bad caps, believe me.
Yeah. The Sharks are trying to these next few years for the Sharks, they're trying to clear some of those contracts, so because they
Yes.
still have some term on some of their deals. So I get it, but that's what happens when you contend for so many
You're
years.
trying to win a cup. Yep.
Eventually it's gonna happen. But we're going to transition over to the next segment where we're going to talk about futures for both the Florida Panthers and the San Jose Sharks. So keep it right here on Locked On Panthers and the Locked On San Jose Sharks podcast. And we're back here on the Locked On Florida Panthers and the Locked On San Jose Sharks podcast. So, JD, we have an Olympic break coming up for the NHL. As far as the Florida Panthers side of things, they've only had 4 postponed games, and 3 of them are road games. One of them were at home, and thanks to the COVID postponement, it actually caused the NHL to put a nationally televised game on TNT for the first time this season, because every single nationally televised game that the Florida Panthers have been ESPN Plus exclusive, not on ESPN, not on TNT. All of them have been ESPN Plus. So for the Panthers side of things, this is an opportunity for them to have a game on the national stage, and for the Florida Panthers, February 16th against the Carolina Hurricanes will be their one and only real nationally televised game. But what about the San Jose Sharks side of things with the postponements and making up that schedule during the Olympic break, and what's to come even before that? What's it looking like for the Sharks?
So yeah, they're going to finish up their East Coast swing here with the Canes on Sunday, and then they play the Lightning on Tuesday, and that'll be the kind of the end of their little, or the start of their break. And then after that, they only have 3 games, and then they moved a Vegas game up from April to here. So they play Edmonton, so we'll get to see Evander Kane's return to San Jose on Valentine's Day. That should be fun. And then it's like Vancouver and, kind of some of these Pacific teams that they haven't really played too many of the Pacific teams. I think they played Calgary twice. They played the Kings once, and then in Seattle twice. So they have a very back heavy Pacific division. So, but yeah, this will be nice, especially for Ferraro, who's, had some dental work today, for him to get back. And then some of these other guys who've been kind of dealing with injuries, they'll, kind of get back. Aiden Hill, who's, also been dealing with some injuries. So hopefully he'll be back by then too. And I think it'll basically just be LeBanc and Carlson still out with injuries right now. So yeah, kind of a good time for the Sharks to kind of get some of these guys healthy as they try to make their stretch run here.
Mm-hmm. And I did mention on the top of the show, but organizationally on Saturday night was a great night for the Florida Panthers because their AHL affiliate, Charlotte Checkers, right before this game against San Jose, Spencer Knight was actually sent down to AHL Charlotte. And it actually, at first, I was very confused of why the move was made. But then we talked about an Olympic break and how many games the Charlotte Checkers would be playing. They'll be playing way more games than the Florida Panthers will. So, and him still being on his ELC, it gave him a great opportunity to be sent down. And on Saturday night against the Syracuse Crunch, a 6-1 win for the Checkers and 37 of 38 for Spencer Knight in his second start with the Checkers. He had one of like a month ago where he gave up 5, and that was where Spencer Knight was in the middle of a rough stretch. And it just the fact that he was struggling on both levels just told me about the mental side of things that was going through Spencer Knight. But then the last 2 starts for Spencer Knight against the Vancouver and against I'm blanking here. Their Tuesday game. Winnipeg. But yeah, those last 2 starts for Spencer Knight is just been incredible for him, and I'm excited for Vegas. He started against Vegas, not Winnipeg, but just those last 2 games started for Spencer, just incredible, and then doing it on the AHL level, only giving up 1 goal, organizationally was just a great night for the Florida Panthers. And then they have a back-to-back against Columbus on Monday and against the New York Rangers, who last time the Florida Panthers went to Madison Square Garden, the box score will say 4-3, but that was not as close as the final score indicated because the New York Rangers got out to a 4-0 lead, and the Florida Panthers didn't make it close until the very end. So the Florida Panthers are looking to finish off the season series against the New York Rangers and get a better performance out of them, where they outshot New York by over 25 shots on goal. But Igor Shesterkin a Vezina Trophy. He has to be a Vezina Trophy finalist. Just
He's good at
hope,
hockey.
hope. I mean, New York is spoiled with goaltending. They just retired Henrik Lundqvist's number on Friday, and now the Florida Panthers are looking to go into that building again to try to figure out Igor Shesterkin. And hopefully for the Florida Panthers, it's a win, multiple wins on the road, because at first in the season they were about 500 on the road, but 22 of their next 37 games are on the road. They're 23-3 on home ice, 8-6-5 on the road. A completely different story than what they are on the road. Their power play numbers going into their most recent road trip were cut in half of what at least the power play percentage. So let's see if the Florida Panthers can build that momentum, because their most two recent road trips, a 2-game road trip in Dallas and Carolina, and then that 5-game road trip, the Western Canadian trip, both of them ended over 500. So that is a little bit of an encouraging sign that this Florida Panthers team can get it together on the road, because when they get to the playoffs, even though if they win the division, they'll get home ice in the first 2 rounds, and they're more than capable of winning at home. You got to find a way to win on the road as well.
Yeah. Oh, they got a brutal road trip coming up to that West Coast swing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like California. It's all the California teams in March and Vegas. So the Ducks are a surprise this year. The LA Kings, we don't know what we're going to get out of the LA Kings. They're I think they're like a year or two away from really contending again, because I really like the direction of their rebuild, and one of the best farm systems in all of the NHL as well. So that's not going to be an easy trip. And with Vegas, they're gonna have Jack Eichel back more than likely.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like with the Pacific, where it's been, like a lot of these teams are kind of in the middle, right? Kind of that creamy middle right now. And like with your Vegas and Anaheim's been a surprise this year. And, but like it's just the Jack Eichel thing's been hanging over everything that you do in the Pacific right now. Cause like, oh yeah, he's coming at some point. And, we don't know how he's going to be when he gets back, but still, if you assume he's still going to get back to some form of Jack Eichel, it's terrifying. And like the Sharks have been kind of, their whole MO is like, we want to make the playoffs this year. And it's like, Kyle and I have debated about this the entire season. Is it worth going to the playoffs and getting curb stomped by Vegas or Colorado in the first round? And there's some thought of, well, at least you're giving your young guys what it's like to go through a playoff march, and like trying to make the playoffs and stuff like that. But I think with Erik Karlsson getting hurt, and then it's just, you've lost so many kind of pieces you were expecting to count on, between Evander Kane, who, like it or not, they were expecting him to contribute this season before Evander Kane started doing Evander Kane things. Kevin Labanc, who you're paying to be a top 6 forward and who was on your 4th line and then is out with shoulder surgery. And, like Erik Karlsson, who you're paying to be the best defenseman in the league. And he was, he was very good this year, and, maybe a dark horse Norris caliber candidate. But like at some point you just kind of start losing these pieces, and, Timo Meier and Tomas Hertl can only do so much. And before it's, so yeah, there's part of me. And then you look at, like you were saying before, with Anaheim and LA's farm teams, like these teams are going to be really, really good, coming really, really fast. And the Sharks just don't have the arms to compete with those as much as, like their 2020 draft class is working out. Looks like it's going to be really well. You just don't have that top end talent to pair with William Eklund, and, maybe spending another year or two in the cellar and trying to get some more of these top end guys that you can partner. Our whole thing this offseason is going to be find William Eklund a friend, and like trying to find another top end guy to pair with Eklund. And then especially when you have to play with Zegras and Byfield for the next couple of years, the Sharks are in a weird spot, man.
And looking at the standings on the West Coast, Calgary has games in hand, so that doesn't help as well. And I believe Minnesota is the other team that has games in hand. Yeah, they and Edmonton has games in hand too, even though they're not in the best position right now. So it's gonna be hard for the Sharks. They're just outside of it now without those games in hand. But like I said, sometimes when you contend for so many years, eventually teams are going to have to start over. I mean, we see that in multiple sports in sports mostly that have a salary cap, mostly that we see it in. And hopefully for like you said, William Eklund gets a friend. He's for the Panthers listeners, William Eklund started the season with San Jose and then went back to his team.
He went back to Sweden. Yeah, Drew
He went
Gardner
back
in
to
Sweden. Yeah.
So hopefully the Panthers get to see him in March, and we get to see William Eklund, who's seen the memes of the Content Boys, something that they had William Eklund on their show. So that was a fun conversation, JD. So, but yeah, thank you. But anyways, thank you once again for doing this crossover with me for the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast. For my listeners, tell them where they can find you on the internet.
They can find me on Twitter at my fry hole. You can find my co-host Kyle at Kyle Demetrius. The show, of course, is at Locked On Sharks, where we shit post 87% of the time, and then we manifest the rest of the time. So, of course, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple, et cetera, and subscribe to us on YouTube as we make the march to 1,000 subscribers so we can get some of that sweet money from YouTube. So
awesome. And for the San Jose Sharks listeners, they can follow me on Twitter at MondoMan12. Follow the show account at LO_FLA Panthers, and follow the Locked On Florida Panthers podcast anywhere they listen to podcasts, and hopefully listen to the show as we try to make the march towards the playoffs and beyond. But thank you so much, JD, and I will see you in March.
All right. Sounds good, buddy.